That it's StreamYard
We're
time.
live.
Hello, legendary listeners, and welcome to the Legendary Ladies podcast. We are your hosts, Amy, Kat, and Morgan, and we are here to have entertaining and thoughtful conversations about media and pop culture from us, your three millennials, but from different eras of the millennial time span, which is kind of strange to think about, actually. So
Such a long
span. It's a long one. Yeah, it's a long span of time.
It's a long span. The millennial era is a long era. We are here this week to talk about the Warrior Nun pilot. So those of you who are joining us for the first time, we like to do frequent pilot pods where we dive into the pilot of a TV show. Maybe we've seen the show, maybe we haven't. I think in this case, this is the first time any of us have seen Warrior Nun, and none of us have seen anything beyond this pilot. So this is a very standalone analysis of just the pilot of Netflix's Warrior Nun, as it is standalone without any concept of what the rest of the series will become. So a little intro into Warrior Nun itself. Warrior Nun is a Netflix show created by Simon Barry that aired on July 2nd, 2020.
Oh my God, my birthday.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I was born July 2nd, 2020. I'm 3.
You were 3 years old.
No, but July 2nd.
I don't think you're 3 yet. You would just be 2.5.
I'm 2.5. No, but July 2nd is my birthday.
Aw, you are officially a warrior nuness.
I'm a warrior nun baby.
Warrior nun baby. Unfortunately, the series did not last very long. It made it 2 seasons before it was canceled of December of 2022 by Netflix. There was rumors that they were trying to shop it around to different networks, but my understanding is as of March, those rumors have been quashed, and the show is unfortunately canceled, which has understandably frustrated a lot of people. We got really curious when we were talking about the kind of queer exodus from the CW last week, or our last episode, and everybody goes, Warrior Nun is so big and canceled, and it's just such a, like, it really hurts the LGBTQ community, and we're like, what is this show?
Yeah,
so we have now watched the pilot.
We asked people, like, what LGBTQ plus, shows have you been really into that got canceled or maybe that are still on? And everybody was like, Warrior Nun, Warrior Nun. Our mentions were just full of Warrior Nun. We were like, I guess we got to watch Warrior Nun.
A lot of Save Warrior Nun, too. It's been canceled for a while, too, so it's not like it's recent news.
Yeah, I know. But we're still on Save Legends of Tomorrow. Like...
Yeah,
that is still a thing. So
I would say the Save Warrior Nun tag, though, as someone who's never been on a Warrior Nun timeline, I see more often than the Save Legends of Tomorrow tag. Yeah,
I see it a lot too. Mine. And I had like no frame of reference for it. I was just like, man, these Warrior Nun people, they love their show. Good for them. So I think that's going to take us into a discussion about the actual pilot of Warrior Nun. Because I think Amy tried to find the script and it's not rattling around.
There's no script yet.
It's not online yet. So I guess the big, the question we always kind of ask at the top is the hook for this pilot. Were you in? Were you not in? How did you feel overall about the pilot?
I feel like it wasn't my taste. Like, again, I'm not a huge fantasy fan, and somehow it blends fantasy with realism, which I like. That's the part I enjoyed Ned potential for, is like, oh, she's going into like the real world. And I do like a good story that like tackles religion and kind of goes in depth about religion in that regard. I hope you're not hearing too much background noise. But yeah, it is very piloty. They have to introduce the characters, and I think it's very hard when you have a main character who's so wide open, their eyes wide open, but at the same time very serious and numb as a character. So I thought that was an interesting balance in this pilot. And then, yeah, the heavy fantasy aspect, which is like the nun part, which was like the first 20 minutes of them getting this kind of Rubik's Cube thing and her being dead. I don't know if that hooked me or not.
I found myself just with coming out of the pilot with a lot of questions that like were not answered by the pilot. I I just thought that like there was a fair amount of world building, but almost not enough for me because I found I like went out of episode 1 not really knowing anything about the warrior nuns. Like, what's their deal? Why do they exist? I guess demons are real. I've got that much, but like everything else was a little squishy. I had a feel for a couple of the characters, but like besides Ava, I don't really feel like any of the characters were super well defined. Um, even though at some points, to your point, Kat, it was very piloty. At some points, they would be like, "Well, you know, this girl feels this way, and this girl's this girl's ambitious, and this girl's reluctant, or something like that." And I was just like, "Ooh, no one in real life has ever described another person this way."
Unless you're in like a job interview and you're like, oh, and so I'm trying to debate why should we not hire this person?
Yeah,
They
tell
seem
me about
reluctant.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually didn't really have a problem with the pilot until the very, 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 very end. I was really intrigued. Unlike Kat, I loved that fantasy aspect. Like right off the bat, I'm like, oh my gosh,
YA.
she's an Angel Halo, and there's very clearly.
It's
like,
very like
someone...
YA in that regard. Like it feels like a novel. Like it wasn't like adult fantasy.
Yeah, and which I'm totally down for. Like the idea that like they have the Angel Halo and it brought back to life this girl. Like I loved the idea and the concept that the main character at the start of the show is dead. And then when they bring her back, they're like, that actually shouldn't have happened. She appears to be a special person. And I was like, oh, shocking. A special person. Like that's very, very YA. But I
She's
didn't mind
the chosen one.
She is the chosen one, except for she was chosen involuntarily. We'll get to the ending in a little bit because ultimately I think the trouble that I had with this was the last like 4 minutes, and I'll explain that when we get to it. But as far as a hook goes, I remembered thinking couple minutes after Ava's like, oh, I can walk, and you recognize that she's not able to walk, and then you start to see her walking and she's just going about her business. I remember being like, this is a girl who theoretically has never walked her whole life and seems to have a pretty good grasp of it and is like, all right, cool, whatever, I can walk. So I was starting to get a little irritated.
There were some physics issues there because I'm sorry, but if you are not walking, there's not the muscles are not going to be there. Yeah.
Except I bet you that the Halo thingy fixed them.
I think that was kind of the Rubik's Cube there, where like because we see her get hit by a car. She apparently has no knowledge about like what cars are, or like not to jump in a pool if you can't swim. She's not making great choices in this episode, but she gets hit by a car and like thrown through a store window, which again seemed extreme for the getting hit by a car thing. And you see that she's like broken her leg and then it heals. So I can buy that the Halo did. Atrophy. Yeah.
And so I think the moment that I really liked where I was like, okay, you know what? They have kind of fixed my doubts there is the moment where she's running on the beach for the first time. And that's presumably the first time she's ever run. I thought that the way that they shot it, like cinemagraphically, I really liked the kind of indie film vibe of it. Like it almost was like if you wanted to end it right there and been like, this was some weird indie vibe thing, like just her story for those first couple of minutes. I came alive. I can walk. Look, I can run, but not swim. Like I really liked that kind of indie film aspect of it. And that was where I was like, you know what? I think I'm kind of into this. I don't think I dislike this. But I was hooked right away because I love that kind of magic-y, halo-y, warrior, protector of magic powers thing. Like, I was going to watch it while making dinner, and I started watching it. I was like, shit, I want to focus.
Oh,
I had to wait until I could walk
attention.
Later.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of like tilt my hand a little bit because usually we talk about this a little bit later on, but like I think I have a flight in a couple days. I might download one to watch on the plane. Like I might I might see how this goes. Like my main issue with the pilot was weirdly that it was not piloty enough. Like I kind of came out of it confused. Like, okay, you established some of the characters and you established a little bit of the stakes, but I truly don't know what's happening. Like I would like
conflict.
I would like more to know about like I want to buy into this, but like what am I buying into? Mm-hmm. I needed a little more of that.
Yeah.
I think that's what's interesting about Netflix, right? This is so, I don't know how it was pitched or whatever. I don't know if it was like they wrote the pilot knowing they were going to be picked up from Netflix or a streaming service, but you could tell this pilot's written in a way where you're like, you want to watch the next episode, right? Like it's not network television where it's like, oh, you got to wait that week.
No,
we need to convince you.
I agree.
But
I don't think that a network show would ever air a pilot like this without more like establishing information on like the stakes of the show and what the show is going to be like. It just assumes that you're going to watch the next one right away, like binge model.
I didn't have enough intrigue to make me want to watch the next one. I'm curious about the world, but like this weird red mist, what does it do? What is its issue? Why can Ava see it and why is that a big deal? Like, sure, you've got like crazy, I don't know, weird centaur thing that comes in and starts destroying the body of the original girl, Shannon, I think was her name, who got destroyed. But there wasn't enough of a hook with the main character, Ava. Like, at the end, she just walks out with the boy. And I was like, okay. I didn't know who the enemy was, even with Father Vincent's, like, long speech about what if demons were real? Like, I don't have enough hook to want to watch it. So, Morgan, you're going to have to tell me how it goes, because I'm intrigued about the world building part. I don't know if I'm intrigued about the current story that they're telling. But...
I like the actress. I think she did a lot with what she had. There wasn't a ton for her, and especially wasn't a ton for those other teens. Like the other nuns, like everyone around her had really not much. And I'm sure they get developed because people like the show and they seem to like the relationship. So I'm sure as the show goes on, we'll see more from them. But even the boy, it's like, okay, she meets this boy who squats at houses, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I thought that like the actress who played Ava, like the main character, was really good because she had to sell some things where I was like, but you're jumping in a pool, but you don't know how to swim. So I feel like she had to sell some stuff for this character kind of being like naive and like eyes wide open, kind of in a way that like made me still like Ava and made her like not annoying, which I think is pretty impressive because she makes some choices in this episode where I'm like, what are you doing, girl?
I think that was an interesting part of that for me, is that I almost expected to be annoyed with her. I almost felt like I was supposed to be annoyed with her, but I wasn't. I think the actress really sold it. I did read something about on a review somewhere while I was looking up information for this episode that like she kind of keeps that teen diary narration going the whole season. I don't know if I would want it the whole season. I think that's like a piloty start of it. I don't know if I want Bella Swan's narration the whole time.
I was going to ask everybody about what they thought of the narration aspect, because I'm not saying that I think narration is always bad. I love Veronica Mars, and that was a heavily narrated show, but like, yeah, I was a little surprised when the narration kicked in. It's like, you might wonder what I'm doing here. Yeah.
But I think it would have been weird to not do in other episodes, because if you did the narration here, it's like, what happened to the narration? That's so inconsistent. So I kind of understand why they would continue. I just don't understand why they started. Because like you said, with Veronica Mars, a big difference of that, so it's a noir show. So they're playing homage to other noir detective stuff that has done that, and it always like was a beginning and end cap. It was like almost Heroes-esque in that way, where Heroes always had that opening monologue but never like it never went into the episode. This actually, like when she's diving into the pool, she talks about it, and it's like, oh, this feels like a book. And you were like, oh, this must be based on a novel, and it's based on a comic, which is like, okay, that's also interesting.
Yeah, that was funny for me because the credits went so fast that I saw based on, and I went, oh no, and like I missed it, and I was wondering what it was based on, and I also assumed it was like a young adult novel. And then right before we started recording, Amy was like, oh, do you have any information on the comic? And we were like, what comic?
Kat's like, what?
No.
I was very surprised.
Apparently
I was surprised too.
Some comic that came out in in the 1990s, like 1993, somewhere
Before
around
I was
there.
born.
There is a whole Wikipedia page on it. It was somewhat controversial. The word nunsploitation is used in the Wikipedia page, so that should give you some idea about the kind of outfits she's wearing on the covers.
Wait,
So
really?
not great.
Like,
Yeah.
oh,
It's not,
no.
it's
Okay.
not cute. It's not that
No.
cute. No.
So,
Now I'm like looking up. Oh yeah, it continues to not be cute. I was like, maybe I'm judging it based off of like the one picture in the Wikipedia, and I'm like most definitely not.
oh, hold on.
You
He
can
sent it
see
to
like a
us. Let me
Google
see.
image search, and there's just a lot of
Oh.
it's a lot of sexy nuns. The nuns
Oh,
so
wow.
sexy. Not usually wearing things a nun would ever wear or would be interested in.
Which is an
Didn't
interesting choice then, that they chose to have a very like Navy SEAL style outfit for their warrior nuns. Like they're
Yes.
very clearly covered up and conservative in their attire.
It's funny.
I
to
like
me,
their outfits though. I
I
Yeah.
do
like,
too.
they also feel like warrior nuns.
They feel like they're warriors. The thing I think is interesting is that, I mean, and I haven't read the Warrior Nun comic book series, and I'm going to be honest, I'm never going to. But
I will
so
never.
maybe I'm judging a book by its cover, by its very questionable taste cover. But from everything I've heard about the show, it has a lot of representation. People seem to really like it. Like the queer community seems to really like the show. So I assume that like it's not like the comic. So it's funny that somebody out there in development saw this comic and was like, you know what, this would be like a great show. And then like, let's have a bunch of queer ladies in it.
I love it. So, did you guys know that it was actually filmed on location in Spain?
I did.
That
but
sounds expensive. I wonder
I
why
know,
it got
that was my
canceled.
But it was pre-2020, so it was filmed before.
It was
the
filmed
world ended.
before the pandemic, which still was probably expensive,
Yeah.
but presumably less expensive than it would become after the pandemic.
Yeah.
And the only reason I knew is because a Twitter friend of mine who does the Super Danvers comics, she's Olam Samuel out on Twitter, had mentioned that like she also lives in Spain, and it's fun to watch the show because she can see the real locations and she knows like where they are.
I heard that they have a number of the landmarks show up. So like this setting, like if we're gonna break down the pilot into different aspects, did the setting intrigue you? Did that make it more unique? For me, it felt very Constantine. I know you guys never watched it, but there was an episode where Constantine is with a bunch of nuns, and I'm pretty sure they're in Spain.
Really?
So I got some Constantine vibes.
I will say the setting for me, first off, it was confusing because I thought it took place in olden days, which I think they're very much want you to think in like the first couple scenes. And then they like come running in with their guns and they're like, and I was like, wait a minute, what's happening here?
Time traveling warrior nuns.
Ooh. But no, I mean the setting is beautiful. Wherever they shoot in Spain is gorgeous. All the old buildings that they're shooting in are absolutely beautiful. So they're getting their money's worth out of these locations because, you know, there's far we haven't seen like a ton of like special effects or anything except a red mist, but like
and the little ring thing that goes in her back.
The ring
Angel
thing,
halo.
The angel halo was pretty cool. Yeah. But yeah, like they're definitely getting their money's worth out of the location alone because it's so beautiful when they're on that rich person's house, like looking out to the ocean and things like that.
So nothing like White Lotus though, because that's so interesting there. It's like, oh, like you're thinking of a show that's very like on location. Like I didn't know it was Spain, honestly. Again,
really?
When Amy is like, oh, did you know it was Spain? Did you know it was? Yeah, I wasn't really paying attention to that. At least
the architecture, the accents.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking.
Really?
I just didn't think about it. I was just like, yeah, sure, he has an accent. I didn't think it was America, but I wasn't thinking it was Spain. I wasn't thinking like, oh, we're somewhere else.
I think at one point he literally says like put all the nuns and friars maybe of Andalusia on alert to look for this girl who apparently is important. Not just because she has the angel halo now accidentally, but I guess she has a history, and she's some sort of history character. Like at one point he opens up the file and he's literally like, ah, yes, this is why she came back to life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I wanted just a smidgen more because it's like what you said, Morgan. There was almost just not enough world building. They had the world building in, but they didn't even leave enough answerable question. Like, well, I guess there are answerable questions, but then I wanted more unanswerable questions. I don't know. I just felt like it just didn't have quite enough.
I think Kat really nailed it
mystery?
in that it's like a Netflix show. So they're not
Yeah.
they're not putting together a pilot assuming that you're going to have to wait a week and remember to come back, so that they need to tell you like more about what the show is. They're like, okay, and then once episode 1 plays, you'll go right to episode 2. Like they sort of built a lot of the Netflix shows are really built around that binge model. At least they were a couple years ago. I think they're starting to step away from that.
Well, especially
But
other streaming services are starting to step away completely from that.
But this one very much felt like an early, like a 2019, like pre-2020, like pre-streaming bubble starting to happen show, where they assumed you were going to like watch the whole thing over a weekend or a week or something like that. And so it's not that big of a deal if they don't answer a lot of questions in episode 1, because don't worry, they're coming in episode 2. It's like, yeah, but I mean, you got to get me to episode 2.
Yeah, because you could just turn it off. It's like, okay, I guess you're convinced by the nun aspect. But also going back to the richness of the setting or how much money they spent on the show. Because like you guys said, it looks like the special effects weren't that much. So that was good. But if they're filming in Spain and they're like, it seems like they're trying to put some money into this episode. That's Netflix's biggest issue, is that they put so much money into things, and that's how these shows get canceled. It's like they put so much into so many shows, and then, it's like, oh, actually, I don't have enough money for this, so we're going to cancel it.
I think that the pandemic set Warrior Nun up for failure after they had filmed it. So they would have been probably done and were in post when the pandemic started. And then to release it, and then I'd actually be really curious to see. Now I want to look it up. I wonder if season 2 ended up being filmed on location.
I would assume, for season 2, there would be like a lot of challenges in place because of the filming location. The filming location also, for me, brought up some questions about why everyone speaks English.
Oh, true. But a lot of people in other countries do speak English.
It's true. It just doesn't seem like it would be like the primary language in Spain. Like, it felt like more people should be speaking Spanish to each other. I don't know.
Which is probably why I also didn't realize away.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair to like, it'd be like, oh, like I immediately thought it was like olden times because they're in that like, historic looking building in Spain. And then somebody runs in with a gun and goes pew pew. And you're like, I guess not.
Yeah, and going to the season 2 thing, it's interesting to see and also going back to the cancellation thing, it looks like a lot of these shows, sometimes they do get canceled by season 1. Like, I love Teenage Bounty Hunter. I thought that was a great show. It was another good queer show. But then, like, this got a season 2. So that's kind of interesting. Like, this got a season 2 and then got canceled. You're like, yeah, we really want to convince people to like this show. And they do now. And they're like, let's, pull
now
the rug
let's
under
cancel it. Yeah, and it's really weird. I think there might have also been a substantial gap between season 1 and 2 because of COVID. I think, did season 2 come out like sometime last year, and then season 1 came out in like 2020? So it might have been like more than a year gap.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Which also probably didn't help the momentum, especially if you're considering that like season 1 was very much, Netflix binge style. Say you watched it over a weekend, then you haven't heard anything for 2 years. You might not remember to watch season 2 when it comes out.
And I'll be honest, I looked up the trailers. The trailers are not intriguing. The trailers were not well done, which is actually unfortunate because I thought that the pilot deserved, like the trailer that they had didn't fit with the first episode. It kind of introduces this main baddie later on, but you don't get any taste of that in the first episode. So it was, I think, unfortunately, there were just a lot of things that went into play for this not succeeding. I'm kind of curious to maybe watch more. Like, Kat, will you watch more?
I say I was more convinced to watch something like this than, let's say, The Last of Us, which is weird to say because, like, obviously The Last of Us is a better show. Yeah, because I'm promised, like, central, like, gay, not that The Last of Us is not gay, but it's just like, okay, at least there's like that to look forward to. And also it's just like, it's something I've never seen before. Like The Last of Us, I watched a lot of Walking Dead. You know, I've seen a lot of those type of shows, and I know they do it in a different way. But it's very different. I haven't seen Warrior Nuns. You know, I haven't seen that. And I thought the aesthetic was really interesting. And the slight commentary on religion I thought was interesting. I don't think they did it too well here. You could kind of guess that it's like, okay, it's trying to show like the suffocation of organized religion a little bit. And I was like, okay, that's interesting to see. And then
I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, because of like the whole point, I think, of her like being away from this establishment, which was the church, and then finally being able to be free. I thought that was the whole point of the pilot.
Really?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
That's interesting to me because I didn't pick up any of that. I mean, I guess
Catholic school.
I guess the idea of her.
we both immediately were like, yeah, we picked up that critique of religion because also one of the
Really?
worst
How interesting.
people besides the demons, I think one of the worst people we see in the whole pilot is that nun, that mean nun
Yeah, I
at
hate
the
her.
beginning,
Meanie
who's
head
like-
nun.
who's like, you know, she's in hell. Like, for what, lady?
And
Yeah.
everything is very strict. And again, I don't know what the rest of the commentary is going to be, but it was very like, okay, strictness, confinedness in that area of the religion aspect. And then she's able to go to the club. She's able to meet these people. And she's finally able to live this life and be able to see what life is on the other side. And I thought that was interesting. But as you said, Amy, you didn't even catch it. I thought it was maybe a little bit too subtle.
I picked that up in relation to the fact that she can now walk. So for
Right.
me, that was a freedom of independence from something that had confined her. You guys saw that more, like mine was more physical. Yours was more like spiritual confinement. So I guess it was both. I mean, it's the reality of like, what if your freedom from a physical confinement mirrors your freedom from a spiritual confinement? What is it like if you get to be fully independent for the first time in your life on every single level? How interesting. How interesting. I didn't even think about any of that. Like the Catholic school girls are like, yeah, we did.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. And again, that's something I've always been interested in, is seeing like, you know, different spirituality and different like how people are affected by or aren't or whatever. I like storytelling like that. So that's something I definitely picked up on. Am I actually going to watch episode 2? Probably not. But I will say this convinces me a little bit more. Maybe if I see clips and people like send me clips of like the thing that they're like, this is what made me a Warrior Nun fan, maybe that would convince me. I just don't know if this was like the best pilot to do so. But I'm guessing the show gets really good because again, people seem
They're
going
really
crazy about it.
love
Yeah.
it. And I really did, you know, I found the lead actress to be likable. So like, and I like the character. So I was interested in like, all right, I kind of want to see what happens to her next, like what's going to go on. And also I'm so confused about what's happening on this show in general. That it's so that will sometimes at least get me onto the second episode.
I want to know about the angel halo, and I want to know when they were putting the halo in her dead body, she got a series of memory flashes, one which was very clearly the Crusades. So one of them had like a very medieval, so I have a feeling that whomever bears this halo leaves behind some of their memories in it, or you're getting access to the memory of the first halo bearer, I think that's what they're called. I think that's what the internet said. I want to know, do you guys think that Father Vincent is a good guy or a not good guy?
Bad guy.
I don't trust that guy.
I don't trust him either. I don't like him.
No.
Definitely a bad guy.
But the sisters seem to trust him to an extent. At least Sister Mary, who was the one he's like, you're good. Like, you don't have ambition. And she was like, thanks, I guess. Like, they seem to trust him, but he definitely has a weird ulterior motive, and he wanted to go and like go to the bar. Maybe he has a history of alcoholism. He just wants to look at the drink. Like, he was weird. I don't trust him. I don't know if I like that guy.
Yeah, I think we could definitely transition into some of the characters because
Yeah.
I gotta say, one of my issues with this pilot is that like besides Ava and Sister Mary, I really don't remember anybody else. Like there was the guy who likes to squat in houses. Sister Mary had like a couple other sisters. They had some like distinguishing traits that they were introduced as. Someone's real ambitious. We know that for sure. But I couldn't tell you which one that was.
Lilith.
And I don't know which, and I kind of want to get into the queer aspect of the show. Is it supposed to be gay? And again, obviously, like, I'm sure it gets gay, but I'm like, is the character here? Like, did they interact with each other? Like,
I thought Shannon, the one who
Yeah.
originally died, and Mary very clearly had something going on.
But the
She
main
gave her,
character is
like,
supposed to be gay. Like, I'm
Oh.
guessing she's bi,
Cool.
but she's the one I
Oh.
think that's supposed to be the relationship.
Interesting.
I don't know. Maybe she'll fall in love with whomever the enemy ends up being. I'm sure that, like, because
Ooh,
in
twist.
the trailer, there's a main female character who has like discovered heaven or
I'm gonna
something.
just look it up. Let's
Look it up. Maybe
first.
that's who it
Warrior
is.
Nun,
Enemies to
gay.
lovers trope. Oh, I would love that.
Relationship.
Question: how gay?
Yeah.
Who is gay in Warrior Nun?
There's a bisexual romance at the center of Warrior Nun. Okay, Beatrice, who is the main character, Beatrice confesses that she's gay to Ava already in season
Beatrice
1.
is not the main character.
No, but Ava
Which one,
is.
wait, which one was Beatrice? Was she the ambitious one?
Beatrice, I think she was the one with the really British accent.
JC and Ava take a. Oh my god, who
Who are
who is gay?
That's my thing. I think that more people are introduced. That's why I'm wondering if this was written as a pilot before it got picked up by Netflix, because from what I've seen, there are a lot more characters in episodes 2 and beyond than we see. in
Ava
this
and
pilot.
Beatrice are the ones who are in love. I don't know
Okay.
if Beatrice. I don't know if Beatrice was in this
Beatrice,
episode. She could have
girl?
been.
Who are you?
I gotta see.
I'm now googling
Oh.
Beatrice.
She's in.
She's
Warrior Nun.
Let's see. She's in the pilot, right?
Beatrice. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
She's the
There you go.
resident strategist.
Oh, that girl. Okay. All right. She made no impression on me at all. I got to be honest. I did not remember. I mean, I remembered there was a Beatrice and I remember there was a Lilith because I thought the Lilith and the Mary were like a little on the nose. I was like, really, you guys? What if all of them
Oh.
had to have like biblical names? Like it was
Mm.
like, it's
okay,
me,
No, I know who she was.
Esther,
Mary.
or whatever.
You want to know it's cool? All the episodes have scripture titles.
I did see that,
I saw
and if
that.
I knew enough about scripture, maybe
I
I'd
knew
be able to
nothing-
tell you something
nothing
about
about
it.
that. I was like,
but
does
I
it-
don't remember what it was.
I was about to say, does the scripture like have anything to do with the episode? It's like the one
It
scripture
did.
about like
It
weird
did.
demons.
Hold on. It's something like "If I am with you, you will live," or something. Warrior Nun,
Oh,
episode 1 title.
like
Hold on,
the
I'm looking this up.
Halo.
All right, Psalm 46:1. Right.
I gotta say that one sister who was who picked up the
Oh.
Halo and like ran with it.
That's not right.
That lady had moves. I felt bad for her when she got taken out. I was like, she was really doing the thing.
Well, and that's also the big question about this whole entire show is like, they're warriors. Why?
I think the double question for me is in the name Warrior Nun. Why both? Be a warrior or be a nun.
I mean, whatever's going on, there's very clearly, and I felt a lot of Constantine-y vibes in this. Again, you guys didn't really watch Constantine. It had Constantine itself had a very clear heaven, hell, fighting, demons, bad, like physical manifestation of demons. And so I picked up on that very quickly, that there is some sort of physical manifestation of demons and immorality and evilness. And I don't have any clear idea of what the red mist is, but the only time that we see the red mist is individuals who I think are about to commit a crime or maybe, quote, let the devil in. Like at one point it was two kids who were like passed out after having drugs. The other one was those creepy guys that were like trying to stalk her, to hit on her. One was the guy who was like very clearly evil, trying to kill another person. So I don't know, maybe that mist is like the devil, you let me in and I will turn you evil kind of a thing. And maybe she can see that. Would be kind of cool, actually. Did you guys ever watch Lucifer?
I've seen pieces of it.
I've heard it's good. I have not actually watched it though. I hear it's really
it has
fun.
kind of those vibes. It honestly, you could probably pick Lucifer up from when it got picked up by Netflix on But I would just.
I
Start
mean, it's a
with season 2.
procedural show, so it's very easy.
Oh,
I've
I
seen
love a
like a
good-
good amount of.
That's the thing is like I
episodes.
love a good procedural, so I'm starting from the beginning. I don't want to. I don't want to miss my monster of the week.
It gets
Mm,
really
that's true.
good as soon as Netflix picks it up, though. Like it's suddenly like they could actually write what they wanted to write.
Did
They're
I?
not constricted.
I have actually never seen Lucifer, but I have been on the set of Lucifer.
Well, there you go.
Yes, we did a tour,
Which set?
the WB tour, and it was the set that was like his
Was it his
apartment,
loft?
his loft,
That's
and then
a
like,
fancy ass set.
and then the other side of it was like the bar area in his, or there was like a bar or something. It was very
Yep.
cool. Yeah, I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
I live in this loft. I was moving
Yeah,
in.
his
I was
loft
moving
is
into Lucifer's.
fancy AF.
That's what got me to watch Pretty Little Liars when I did that Warner Brothers tour, like because everyone does it. They had so much Pretty Little Liars. They had so many sets from there.
They
I'm like, I
had
guess I should
so-
watch Pretty Little Liars.
They did. It's so funny. The first time we did that WB tour, it was like after Pretty Little Liars was already on. And I did it with some of my friends who, like, my one friend is a Friends super fan. So every time the guy would be like, and do you know what happened here? And I was like, that's the barn Allison was killed. And then he was like, okay. And then we go to like a different place. And he's like, I bet you can't tell me what happened on that staircase. And my friend was like, that's the staircase where Ross and Rachel, and like this guy, like I could see the light going out of his eyes as we just like undercut him at every turn. He was
That's
just like,
hilarious.
oh wow, you guys watch a lot of TV, huh?
That's funny. 'Cause I get kids like that on my tour. I'm like, does anybody know why a wildebeest would have that long white beard underneath their neck? And I literally had a kid that was like, it's for seed dispersion. And I was like,
Well, don't
What?
we all
I
know,
was
huh?
like, that is correct. And over here we see a giraffe. No, those are rare though. It is for seed dispersion. It's very cool.
That kid knows more than I do.
Yeah, seriously.
Do you know what a wildebeest is? You know what a wildebeest is.
I mean, they're in The Lion King, I'm pretty
They
sure.
are in The Lion King. We are on the right track.
See?
Yep,
Look
they
at
accidentally
that.
ran
Always
over
thinking.
Mufasa.
Yeah, that's who did it.
Technically, it's Scar's fault. Okay, what about that character Diego, the boy that she had been sharing the room with for a while? Do you guys think we're going to see him again? I actually thought he was one of the most intriguing characters in the whole episode.
The one that's the squatter.
No, that's Emilio. No, Diego's the one who was in the orphanage with her.
Oh, I gotta look him up because you're saying he's the most interesting. But I'm like,
that
who is
guy.
he?
I think his name is Diego.
I mean,
I
probably.
remembered his name.
Okay. I thought that was
Yeah.
her brother. I was just like, that's her brother. So I guess it's not. He showed up for that one scene.
I also thought he was her brother until just about the end when they were like, "Oh, you guys must have been such good friends." And I was like, "They're not related?"
I'm curious what why he is confined to that room, because he tells Ava, you have to go live. Like, if you have this opportunity, even if it's for 24 hours, live like there's literally no tomorrow. And she takes that advice, and I feel like someone taking that advice from someone else like they have to have some sort of meaningful connection. And I am intrigued. Like, he's one of the characters that I am curious to learn more about, mainly because I want to rescue him from the evil nuns in that meanie head orphanage.
I know, right? I was like, get him out of there.
The resources were given.
Why are there only women in this orphanage thing? Because for the
Aren't
nun.
most orphanages run by the Catholic Church entirely nuns?
No, but I'm saying like the warrior nuns are all girls.
But
Maybe they're not as
nuns.
corruptible.
Well, they are nuns.
They're
But are they
nuns,
nuns?
though, Kat.
But are they nuns? No, but
I
like
actually don't know.
the
No, I
young
think they're
girls, are
nuns.
they nuns?
No, I'm pretty
Are they
sure
officially
probably
nuns?
first.
I think they're nuns.
I would assume so.
So is like our main character a nun?
Wait, are they nuns first?
No,
Warriors second, or warriors
Yes.
first, nuns second?
I think they're nuns first, warriors adjacent. I think they get training. I bet you they've finish whatever training nuns get.
And then they go right to the warrior.
I don't know what training they get. I know
Maybe
I have a
they
story
have,
to tell you. When
not
I
the
was in
seminary,
Catholic school,
right?
when I was in Catholic school, they tried making us become nuns. So every year we would have this Yeah, I'm not joking.
Your
Every
Catholic
year
school was wild, by the way.
it was.
I've heard stories.
My grammar school wasn't as bad. I felt like it was like, whatever, we're just going to Catholic school and we're learning about religion. But my high school was, I've had stories and I've told stories about them on other podcasts. And then we would have this like day, a retreat. And there was one year one year they hypnotized us that we would see God. And he was like, don't you see God? And then they hypnotized us. That was really interesting and very tiring because I remember we closed our eyes and we were like, why am I so tired? And then we all realized years later we were hypnotized. But one of the other years, I don't think it was the same year. I think it was the year before. The boys went to this priest. I don't know what they talked about. Not sure. But the nuns, we talked to the nuns and they showed how fun it was to be a nun. They're like, we have our own calendar. We go roller skating. And they tried selling the nunnery. Huh?
Did it seem fun? Because as you're describing it, having my own calendar and going roller skating does sound better than my job.
If one of them was like, you get to have your own calendar, go roller skating, and also slay demons with actual swords, I might be like, okay, well, let's do it. Like, do I get free gym membership? Let's go.
I will say that they did not sell us on that point. I did have a gym teacher all of high school that was a sister, and she liked her job and she loved playing basketball. But she didn't even wear the Hobbit. That's not called the Hobbit. What is the habit? What is the thing called? The thing where nuns usually wear?
It's a habit, not a hobbit.
Not a hobbit. That's a book.
I am officially never gonna let you live that down.
Man, no, Catholic school is. You would think I would have learned that.
They walk around wearing their hobbits.
They wear all their hobbits. But you wouldn't have known she was a sister, but she was, and she was our gym teacher, and she once yelled at me for not playing volleyball enough, and she's like, you should go sit to the side. You should just be a cheerleader instead. I'm like,
what?
Whatever. She said I wasn't playing enough. And I was like, I don't like volleyball. And we're not even playing real volleyball. It wasn't even the extent. It was like 20 girls in like a pile. It was like a crowd. And we all just kind of put the ball up. And I was like, okay, it's not even real.
I went to a Catholic high school, but also a Catholic middle school. And the Catholic middle school was wild. And we had like our religion class was taught by a little old lady nun. Like, you know, she was probably like 80, 90. She's probably like 80, 70, 80 years old. She was like little too. And he used to get a ruler. And sometimes when people weren't paying attention, she would slap their desk with the ruler really hard and everybody would jump and she would go like, I'm not allowed to hit you anymore. And you could feel that she was sad about that. Like she missed the days when she could just like ruler somebody over the knuckles with that thing. Not that our class wasn't a nightmare, but still.
I will say that the nuns in grammar school were not too bad. They were just like playing like games and they're like, I have a cat that usually comes to my house and I give him food. I'm like, that's very nice of you. It wasn't until high school. Well, I would say that the teachers of middle school grammar school for us, they are tough.
Kat,
the nuns are fine.
You're really like selling the nun lifestyle to me though, because this is what I know about nuns so far from you. They have cats, they have calendars, and they rollerblade around.
Maybe we should all just become nuns. Okay, another thing. Okay,
this podcast is going to become.
It's just why you should become a nun, a warrior nun. Okay, another thing that I always blacked out in grammar school, because that's something me and my friend and my brother would always notice, is that we just like black stuff out from our grammar school and in our Catholic school days. But one thing I remember is that the Monsignor, he would like tell us, like he'd give us our report cards. And you know, normally you just get your report card and like wallow if you got a bad grade and you would be the only one who knows it. But no, Catholic school is about shame. So he would whisper in someone's ear if they did badly in a certain subject. So he, like, if someone did really well, they'd be like, 95, you got a 95 average. And you're like, yeah, I got 95. But if you did like badly in a subject, they'd be like, yeah, you should work on this in front of everybody.
No.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is that all of these nuns got great scores in
in
rollerblading
and strategy.
In rollerblading.
Well, Beatrice, one of the characters from Warrior Nun that we learn ends up with the main character. She's the strategist of nuns.
She is she's like their SEAL team nun.
See,
But
I think this is also trying to sell on the nunnery. They're like, do you want to be a warrior? Do you want to end up with Ava? Be a nun.
now I kind of want to.
Every other nun is hot. And they can all fight hand to hand, and then afterwards, everybody gets ice cream and rollerblades. Don't you all want to be nuns?
All while fighting evil.
Fighting evil by moonlight. They're basically
moonlight.
Sailor Moon.
Sailor Moon is also a nun, confirmed.
We've just pitched Netflix a whole different show.
So let's get to just maybe one or two of the discussion points. I guess the question, does this work as a pilot, is difficult for us to answer because it's Netflix and we're not 100% sure if this is a true pilot or episode 1. So let's answer it both ways. If this is episode 1, is it a good episode 1? If it's a pilot, does this work as a pilot?
Neither.
Yeah,
I kind of agree.
Right?
Yeah,
I kind of agree.
It's kind of like reading the first chapter in a book where they want to just throw you into the story, but they haven't given you much in the way of world building. And I think for a while Netflix was kind of doing this with their shows where they're like, the first episode is like the first chapter. It's like, I mean, there's a reason traditional television did it the way it did with pilots and establishing the world and things like that, because most people want to know what they're watching or what the universe is to get invested. And I thought that there was enough here to get me interested, but I would have liked to know more about the stakes. Why are they warrior nuns? I thought that for sure.
Or are they nuns?
I thought that for sure was going to be a slam dunk answer in this pilot. And I don't know why they're warrior nuns. Why are they both warriors and nuns? Why not one or the other?
I think for me as a pilot, it lacks the big bad, so to speak. We have an ambiguous bad, and we have an ambiguous evil that requires you to understand the concept of good versus evil, which I think most people who watch do. But I think this show is going to have some very clearly defined definitions of what evil is and who the bad guy is, and that has not been established. However, for episode 1, as an episode 1, I am intrigued enough by Ava. I'm intrigued enough by her storytelling, and I'm intrigued enough by, honestly, the set locations and the cinematography to give episode 2 a chance. I don't know if I'm going to go to it right away, but like you said, Morgan, this is the kind of thing where I'm like, oh, I'm out of TV shows to watch. I've caught up on my shows. Maybe I'll try Warrior Nun episode 2. I think overall, I very much enjoyed this episode of television. Would I recommend this to anyone as a pilot? Maybe the first half, and then it fell apart for me as a pilot.
I think it's interesting about the cinematography because I was watching this during the day, and I work in something called a Pella room. At least we call it a Pella room.
Oh,
and it's
a really bright room, right?
A really bright room. It's honestly, it probably should have been a greenhouse in another person's house, but it's a room that I do my work in and I like. But there's a lot of windows. The one that remember where you slept, the room right
candy.
next to there. We call it
the room that had all the candy everywhere.
No. That's
Why did this room have so much candy?
There's it's the one with all the windows.
The living room.
Yeah, but next to the living room, there's a door next to there. There's a door.
I didn't even know that door was there.
Yeah, so there's another room in there. And there's all these windows. So that's usually where I spend my day and do my work because it's my little area. But anyways, I was watching the episode and I watched it on the TV during the day, and the glare of the sun was hitting the window, hitting the TV. It was very hard to see things going on because it was very dark the whole entire, especially the first 30 minutes. It was just a very dark show.
Mm-hmm.
When she was dying, I kind of wish they brightened it up a little bit.
Yeah, I
Whilst
watched
she dies, more brightness, please.
Well, just sunlight. It was just very
ambiance, bump it up a bit.
Yeah, it was just very orange and black. It's just I wanted
that's the point.
It was definitely the point. Again, probably going into the Catholic side of oh, you gotta make it stuffy and make it dark. Another thing I wanted to say is that you mentioned about the villain aspect, but I think also a big part that's missing, that's kind of what you need in a pilot, in any writing of a TV show, is that at the end of the scene, you should understand the want of the character. And I didn't know what anyone wanted.
That is a good point.
Yeah.
Does Ava want freedom? Does she just want to go?
She's
from
just thrown
moment to
into
moment?
freedom. She's just thrown into it.
Yeah, I
the
don't
nuns want.
really get like Ava. I feel like I can kind of go
I can
along
get
with her journey because she's she's just kind of thrown into it. But like, what do the nuns want? Like, what are they working towards? Like, I was really interested by like what was going on with them, and they seem to have like a hierarchy,
And,
but
like, a
sometimes they
mission.
just like sing songs together, I guess, when they're sad. I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
I
the
wanted to know
piano
more
thing
about
confused me. I was
wanted to know more about the nun
singing.
society.
See, I loved the piano bit. That was them mourning for their lost sister.
She seemed like she was smiling. She was fine.
Yeah.
Well, you remember the good
maybe
memories.
she has a crush on Mary, and she's like, Shannon's out of the way.
There you go.
No, I bet you that's like her favorite song or something, and it'll come back at some point.
Possibly.
But
I like that we can tell like that the one musical theater person is like, no, the singing was necessary.
it's a necessary bit. I'm like, you know what I did really love though, like something that actually genuinely stood out to me about that moment is that they were very clearly using a period piano. Like that piano is ancient.
Yeah, that was very cool.
The honky tonk sound of it, and it was not tuned. Like that piano, I bet you that whole cathedral probably came with that piano for the set, and they were like, can we use this? And they said, sure, why not? Like that, I bet you that piano dates back to the 1600s.
I wouldn't be surprised. It looked, I mean, the like the actual like the places that they were filming looked like actual buildings. Like they didn't look set like. And I think that's like why I think to your point, Amy, about like the cinematography was so good and like the background was so good, just because it like they were out in the world. It wasn't like it didn't look like a set to me. It didn't look like if you like touch the wall too much, it was gonna fall over.
That's the benefit of shooting on location.
Yeah, I mean, it looked
Like,
real.
Yeah, because it was.
Because it was real.
All right, and then the last question. Obviously, we cannot really answer like the cultural significance of the pilot, but we did kind of touch on the concept that this came out in 2020 and that it does lead to a show that has very clear LGBTQ plus vibes to it. So I kind of want to leave that to the listeners. Those of you who have watched the rest of the show, what was the significance of this show for you in a specific community, but also in the fact that it came out in 2020? Like, I'm actually kind of surprised that in the middle of 2020, when we were all looking for shows to watch, that we didn't watch this.
I am too. I guess I was too busy watching all the seasons of Love is Blind, just like really,
Just
really
like
getting
many
in there.
people.
I was just in the discourse. I was watching Tiger King and Love is Blind. I was doing every typical pandemic thing except making my own bread. I think Amy got into that though.
I only got into that a bit ago. No, I was doing a lot of like caretaking at that time. So I actually did a lot less like chill pandemic things than most people did.
You did that when you broke your leg.
Yeah, yes,
You had some
that's
time.
true. That was when I got back into books and reading like all of my like fairy books. That was the femur break. Yeah. But yeah, if you all are listening and you have a thought about maybe the cultural significance of this, again, not really pilot, but kind of TV show, bring it to us. Lay it on us. thelegendaryladies@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts. Speaking of.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, do we want to go around and do final thoughts on like what we thought of the pilot before we get into like what other people tweeted at us?
Sure. I think we should give episode 2 a shot.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
I'll
how
give episode 2 a shot. I'm intrigued enough about the world. I want to know about the Halo. I want to know specifically what the red mist is. I want to know if I'm right. That's all I want to know. I want to know if all the things that I'm thinking are right. I want to know if this red mist is like the devil. Like, can I come in and corrupt you or not? That's what I want to know.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah. Or like the Halo doesn't have the memories of the original bearers and all the history of that. Like, are there more Halos? Like, there have to be clearly more Halos. Like, are there evil Halos? Are there like fallen angel Halos? Is there like a Lucifer Halo out there and that one turns you evil?
Oh my gosh.
I wonder if
now-
there's a cliffhanger of this show. That's what I'm curious about because that would
I'm gonna Google
suck.
that for you.
My
Yeah.
guess is that it ends probably not conclusively.
Yeah, or else
It didn't
people
seem
wouldn't
like
be
they
begging.
were expecting to get canceled so much. Maybe Legends like it ends on a cliffhanger and you just kind of make your own ending in your head.
I feel like at least with Legends, they had that one episode where you're like, this could have been a finale, so you feel okay
Yeah,
about
that's
it.
true. You could just like kind of go back
Apparently,
to that one and go,
There's no
okay.
cliffhanger.
Oh, okay.
To quote Reddit, it says, "To be honest, it would work as an ending of sorts, although it prepares the road for furthering the plot."
Okay, that's good though, at least.
Okay.
Kind of Legendsy, like how we have it. Legends.
Not bad.
So what about you, Kat? What are your final thoughts?
I think there's a lot of potential to it. I think there's definitely grains of salt that interest me. I don't know if it's enough to say I need to watch episode 2, but I could definitely see why people like it. I don't see how it's queer yet, but once it gets really gay, I'm sure it's
if Amy or I make it much further in, we'll
let you
report
know.
back on the gayness or lack of gayness, so that you can be prepared. Okay, so that's going to take us, I think, to some feedback. A couple people tweeted us and let us know their thoughts about it. This one was really interesting. So Devin, a friend of the pod from the podcast Gay Gals Watch, sent us some of her thoughts. And she said, I attempted to watch the show, but only made it in about 20 minutes in. Everyone has raved about the show, but I have seen very little discourse on the relationship between religion and disability. I personally am not religious for a variety of reasons. However, I have many disabled friends who are, and I have a lifelong physical disability myself. The thing that instantly turned me off from the show was the healing of the main character through a religious artifact. She was broken, but through God, and broken is in quotes, but through God, she was healed. This is wildly problematic. Disabled people, especially disabled people in the church, are often told if we just believe enough, God will heal us. One of my best friends is still dealing with the trauma of this 42 years later. She was born with cerebral palsy and was told over and over again from a very young age that God wasn't healing her because she did not have enough faith. I have also had people stop me on the street in grocery stores and while in a courthouse doing my job and wanting me to let them pray to heal me. I have stopped giving polite no thank yous because they will do it anyway. So to turn on a show that seemed to have an interesting premise and then be confronted with that while no one seemed to know or care about the long-lasting trauma often associated with religion and disabilities, just felt very ableist to me. And Devin goes on to say, disabled people are not inherently broken and only worthy when they can walk or are healed, and it's ableist to think otherwise. So I thought that was a really interesting thought on that, because it's not something that had actually occurred to me like while watching the show, but I can absolutely see how that could be kind of an underlying narrative that could rub people absolutely like the wrong way.
It's interesting because I think of whatever this like Angel's Halo is. I think I've watched enough things like Lucifer and Constantine where I'm able to very easily dissociate that as it's a magical item. I don't really connect it anymore to the religious aspect of it, but it is very interesting to hear from someone who does connect that immediately, and I deeply respect that opinion.
Yeah, I think to your point, Amy, yeah, to me it was more like I think it has to do with us reading so much YA that we initially saw like the MacGuffin, and we we're just like, oh, it's the Rubik's Cube, right? And we weren't even thinking about it as like, in this religious context where they're all nuns and it's a halo and maybe Joan of Arc is involved in some way. So
yeah. Interesting.
So that was interesting. We also had some feedback from Twitter at Owenlin Samuel, which I probably butchered. They draw a very cute comic about the Danvers sisters that I love, and you should follow them absolutely. So pilot-wise, the episode does the job of setting the story in motion and introducing some, not all, of the main characters, but it did not make me an instant fan, though I liked the nuns part from the get-go. They go on to say, the lead, Ava's initial journey is not the reason I kept on watching, but it sets her on a road that will eventually have her become a proactive lead in a situation she was shoved into without choice or consent. So as character development goes, it does the job. Warrior Nun does a great job at building well-rounded characters and does not rush into things. And as the series goes on, it pays off on all fronts. Season 1, episode 6 is a standout, and the Rotten Tomato scores for season 2 are there for a reason. And then
Whoa.
she screenshot season 2, which seems to have gotten 100% critics and 99% audience. So people are loving season 2.
Wow.
Oh, there you go. Found its footing with season 2 then.
Right. And then they end off by saying it's been praised for its representation with good reason. The pilot features a transgender woman who helps Ava begin to figure herself out. One of the main characters' coming out scenes is beautiful, and the main ship, Slow Burn, is a delight. So seems like there are some reasons to keep going on. And I like that that they mentioned like the pilot didn't like grab them either so much. Like they liked it.
We're
but
on the right track then.
Yeah, exactly.
It was probably a
focus is
pilot
resonating.
problem.
Keep going. Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
a show problem.
Not a show problem.
How interesting.
I'm interested the season 2 did like people loved it so much.
Now, to be fair, that Rotten Tomatoes score, the critics' consensus, there were 10 in the sample.
Yes. Yeah.
But the audience, the 99%, had over 8,000 votes.
That's
Okay.
crazy.
Yeah. So the
that's-
audience is liking it.
But we know that the audience is very, very loyal to the show. So I
That
think
is
also
true.
they're probably like, this show ended. Let's try to get it, to people's eyes and try to get
Yeah,
this
show
picked
how
up,
like
so.
what a good show it is. But
Yeah.
from what I heard, like I kind of saw on the Twitter, the chat seemed to be that like people were really liking season 2, which I think is kind of made it even more bittersweet when it got canceled, that it was like really kind of, it sounded like it was finding its footing and then just
And shows need that. Shows need more than season 1. Think about Parks and Recreation. If that didn't
yeah.
have more in
Oh my
season
gosh.
1, and that's
no one would
such
ever talk about it.
Exactly.
Every major Star Trek franchise, with the exception of, in my opinion, this is only my opinion, with the exception of Strange New Worlds, needed 2 to 4 seasons before they found their footing. Next Generation, season 2 and 3, Deep Space Nine, season 4 and 5, Voyager, season 3, Enterprise, season 3. They needed a lot. Hell, I don't even know if Discovery ever found it. But they needed a lot of it, and they only got that because of the difference at the time. Back in, when they were making Next Generation, that was a different time period. You frankly had a lot more commercial time, so I feel like they got a lot more revenue based on what they were putting out on a weekly basis. That for, I can hear my dog drinking his water. That I think that back in that time, keeping a show running, even with just modicum of success on a primetime show that people are going to watch, was great for revenue, as opposed to now with streaming. I think they have to see a result in 1 to 2 seasons, or that's it. The show does not get to stick around.
I think the problem for Warrior Nun is it came a little bit too late. Like if this had been on Netflix like 4 years ago or something like that, it'd probably be in like season 5 by now.
I bet you if it had come
This is on CW.
at the tail end of the 100.
It would be on season 10 by now.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, would it though? Would it, with the CW's track record?
It would be on season 10, but the whole show would take place in one room.
It would not be in Spain. Let's just say that.
It would not be.
Yeah,
in
it would not
Spain
be in
for
Spain.
sure.
Really bad green screen.
It would be up. They would just be standing in front of a Spanish, like the flag of Spain, and they'd be like, "Spain is so great, isn't it?"
Like, welcome to Andalusia.
Just like a Zoom
up?
background of Andalusia in the background.
All right. So what do you guys say? Does that wrap us up for this episode, for this pilot pod?
I think it
I
does.
think so.
So you can find us on Instagram, The Legendary Ladies. You can find us on Gmail. I almost said Google. TheLegendaryLadies@gmail.com. You can find us. We have a website coming out very shortly. Can I share the website?
I think you
Ready?
can share the
It's
website.
ready.
Yeah, let's see it.
There might be
The
some
legendary-
bugs. I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, Morgan is doing all of that. Morgan is rocking it. The Legendary Ladies Podcast.com.
.com.
.com.
We
I
didn't have
almost
to
said
become a
at
.org.
.com. Yeah. Yeah. So the Legendary Ladies at Gmail, Instagram, The Legendary Ladies, Twitter still
We're
Legends
posting there.
_podcast. Yeah, we are now posting there.
We're posting on
So
the
please
Instagram. We're
follow
blowing up
us.
on IG.
Yeah. on IG.
We're actually doing pretty good with the likes.
We
We're doing
are,
pretty
yeah.
good with the likes for a Instagram account that just
We have
started this
2
week.
posts.
Yes.
And they're both blowing up. We're going.
They're both
viral.
blowing up. So share, and here's your pro tip. If you guys like to support us and you want to support us on the Instagram algorithm, save the post. Saving the post or sharing it to your friends is like adding it to your collection, save an ad. You can just literally have a collection called Legendary Ladies Spam. I don't care. But like just save it because that shows that you are, quote, engaging with it, and it bumps us up higher on your feed. So we need that. Thanks. You can find us on...
We also have
Go
our
ahead.
Patreon, too. I was going to say that we
Yes.
are updating. But also we should mention, because I don't think we've mentioned this, we are back on a weekly schedule for this
Yes.
podcast.
Oh, that's true. We decided our podcasting muscles were atrophying, and we needed to get back in here weekly and mix it up.
So we're going to do a lot of pilot pods. We want to dive into some book clubs. And by we, I mean Morgan and I. Kat will read them.
I will read them if they're not 500 pages.
When
and
you
if I
guys
have
gonna-
time to read them.
When are you guys going to start Wheel of Time? I'm already 11 books ahead of you.
Oh my god.
That's not happening.
They're only
I have
1,000
so many
pages,
books to get
Kat.
through, Morgan. I have a freaking library. That's not even
It's a
all
lot-
of them. There's ones
it's a
by my
lot of books.
bed.
I've
It is a
started
lot of
just
books.
stacking them. I'm a member of the Book of the Month Club. This is not a paid promotion. The problem is that I've been reading like one book series for the past year, but I haven't stopped getting my Book of the Month Club books.
Oh no.
So they've just accumulated. There's like
Just
a whole
piling up.
stack of them.
Well, yeah. So if you guys have some books you want us to read that are shortish, let us know. Audiobooks.
And people are talking about, too. We would like to talk about something that's like in the ecosystem right now.
If you have a question, if you have a subject, like literally if you want to send us a subject and be like, we are very interested in your opinion on radio shows on Audible and their comeback, like Impact Winter or something. Or if you have a radio
That was
show, because
great.
I really liked listening to Impact Winter.
I love
You guys
that.
have another recommendation of something like that, please let me know. If you want us to do something wild, like watch the final episode of a random TV show that got canceled, and
The
we'll be like, "That's why it was
Sopranos."
canceled.
First and the last.
We're hoping to do more interviews. We're hoping to bring to do more stuff in the industry, talk about storytelling in all its forms, music. If you guys want us to listen to an album,
We turned Amy into a Swiftie, so anything is
And
possible.
Swiftish.
It's one of our better episodes, too.
It really is.
Viewership-wise. It's one of our better episodes.
You know what it did? It turned me into a Carly Rae Jepsen fan. I have been listening to
I
Carly
love
Rae
that.
Jepsen all the time. Western Wind
Yes.
is like one of my top favorite songs right now. I listen to it all the time, especially because I'm out in California living that life right now. It just writes its own TikTok. It's so ready
I love
to roll.
that. See, I love that. That's what's so great about this podcast. Because again, who would have thought you would have been like Carly Rae Jepsen? Who? And you're like,
Right?
she's great.
And now you're a fan.
So subscribe on Patreon. We have some behind the scenes stuff. You could have seen photos from Kat's most recent Comic-Con. You could have seen my audition for Macbeth, which is still happening. So let's go around the table and share what we're all up to, where you can find us individually, and then we'll sign off because we're going to record another episode.
Okay.
Morgan wants to start.
I will start because mine's fast. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mojotastic, and you can also find me as a co-host on Supergirl Radio, where we have been going through season 1 of Supergirl. But there's also a movie that Supergirl is going to be in that's going to be coming out this summer. So we'll be talking about some Supergirl stuff leading up to the Flash movie. So that should be fun.
Kat, what are you up to? Do you have a Kickstarter?
Oh, yeah. Well, my Kickstarter for Light Fall Light Daughter, as we record this, just ended. But as we release this, we're preparing for another Kickstarter, which is Rainbow Canvas, which we have not announced yet at this time. But while you listen to this, it would be announced. So that's why I'm talking about it. But it's called Rainbow Canvas. It's a webtoon canvas anthology. So if you like fluffy BL and GL stories, they're all original stories from the most popular webtoon canvas series out there right now. So we're really, really proud of this. We also have a forward by one of the most popular BL stories, period, on Webtoon, which is Boyfriends. So very, very, very excited about this project. And Yeah, that will be live May 8th, I believe. So check out my Twitter at Comiguno if you want the link for that. We always are doing something.
And you guys can find me on Instagram, amy.hypnorosky. If you type amy.hyp, it'll pop right up. And then I am also in a production in San Diego of Macbeth. I am playing Lady Macbeth. We're still at the start of rehearsals. The production does not start until the middle of June and ends at the start of July. So if anyone is interested and happens to be in San Diego, you can find details for the production at patioplayhouse.com/Macbeth. And I think that's going to wrap us all up. Thank you so much to our listeners for joining in. Let us know what pilot you would like to see us next do on our pilot pod. Alias is still on our list.
We got to do it.
Is on the list. Have you guys seen Fringe?
I have seen Fringe.
I am not.
Really?
So many different.
We have so many options.
I have seen Alias though, and I do like the pilot a lot.
It's a good pilot. I'm gonna get us to watch it one day.
Yes. So if you really want to support Morgan, vote Alias.
Vote
Support
Alias.
Amy. Vote 12 Monkeys.
And I guess I'll just watch what
That's like I'll
we need
watch.
to watch.
I'll watch
It
whatever.
goes with the flow. Actually, you know what? I think I might change it to Strange New Worlds because I want to make you guys watch Star Trek.
Oh no.
It's really actually though it's not really a pilot because it got picked up as a season. Maybe I'll wait. God, I don't know if I want to force you guys to watch any of the Star Trek pilots. I really don't think I do. They're not great.
Maybe give us like a really good episode of Star Trek because it seems serialized enough.
I wonder if I can find a good couple.
I feel like you gotta win something.
There are some where like
give
shit.
Amy a
This was,
win.
Star Trek's so good, and you know what? Do you know? To all the listeners out there, you should know that we are recording tonight on the night that the Star Trek Picard finale series finale is airing,
right?
Oh,
and I am here recording for you all.
That's
how
true
much
love.
I love you. I have not yet seen the episode and will not be able to for like 5 days. So I just have to avoid the entirety of the internet. So I don't get
Don't worry,
spoiled.
everyone's just talking about Twitter Blue. You're good.
Don't worry. Everyone's just too concerned about their check marks.
Yeah, but not on my Twitter. Like my Twitter is, I have to I literally can't open it to go to my DMs. I have to be careful because I literally have to close my eyes so I don't get spoiled.
Oh no.
I don't want spoilers. All right. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you for joining us. Again, thelegendaryladiespodcast.com. Email thelegendaryladies@gmail. Instagram, thelegendaryladies. We are your legendary ladies. Thanks for listening in and stay legendary.